Hi, I'm Dom, and it hasn't happened yet. It's going to happen in your career, and you have to make that decision. Are you going to be an approved supervisor? Welcome back to Business Behavior. This is a place where ABA and business intersect. Here, I'll share attainable steps in order to propel your career in the field of ABA in a major way. Let's get right into it. Today's episode, we are talking about supervision, about how to be a good supervisor. So, when you think of the word supervision, supervision is a requirement in order to pretty much get through this ABA program. Supervision is a requirement in order to get into the field, and it's sometimes it's a requirement to stay in the field. Many of us as BCBAs, we may have the opportunity to provide supervision. I'm sure probably some of you have already had students inbox you, message you, come up to you, say, hey, can you provide me with supervision? So if it hasn't happened yet, it's going to happen in your career. And you have to make that decision. Are you going to be an approved supervisor? If the answer is yes, this is the video for you. If you're thinking about providing supervision in the future, if you are thinking of starting your own private practice, if you're thinking about starting your own business, if you're just thinking about having a team under you, this is also the video for you. These are steps on not only how to provide approved supervision, but how to be a good supervisor, how to demonstrate great leadership skills, how to demonstrate humility and compassion when providing supervision. Because whether you're planning on starting supervision right away or it's something you're thinking about in the future. I've said this in previous Dom the BCBA Mom videos. Ever since I became a BCBA, or I have been placed in a role of a supervisor, or I have been placed in a leadership role. So, whether you have taken the 8-hour course or not, whether you have made that commitment with someone that you are going to help get them through this program and sign up on their hours, you are still seen as a leader. You are still being placed in leadership roles as a behavior analyst in this field because there are so many people that you're going to be providing training to and resources and step-by-step guidance. So this video is entitled How to Be a Great Supervisor. Are you ready? All right, let's get it. Okay, so actually, literally as we speak, I am getting ready for supervision meeting right now. So I can take you through the steps of what that looks like when I'm getting ready for supervision. A few things that I love to have readily available is my go-to. This is my Cooper book. As you can see, it's been a little loved over the years. These are literally my sticky notes on how I pass the BCBA exam on the first try. Okay, so you got to keep this handy. You always want to check with your Cooper book. Not only do I keep my Cooper book handy, but I make that a requirement for my supervisees to also have their Cooper book available, even though we may have different editions. Another thing that I love to keep readily available are my codes of ethics. Okay, there is always going to be, or there should always be, opportunities when you're discussing your caseload to also tie those to specific ethical codes. We all know how important this time is for a student when this could be their first interaction with a BCBA or their first interaction really in the field of ABA. So what you do now is going to be long lasting. It's going to leave an impact, whether that's a positive impact or a negative, whether this is an example or a non-example of how that student is going to then perpetuate what you shared to them. So this is a very important time in everybody's lives, okay? One of my favorite quotes is, if they cannot learn the way you teach, teach the way they learn, which means there is no cookie cutter way to provide supervision. If the way that you're doing it is not working for your student, then you need to come up with another way. So let's talk about the responsibilities of the supervisor. So your responsibilities will include you want to state your expectations and make those plain and clear. Many times this is done in a supervision contract. Of course, you have to have your supervision contract and it must be signed before you start accruing hours. So within the supervision contract, you want to spell out what your expectations are. What is it that you expect of them? The timeline. If you have goals, you may want to break those down into objectives. Your second responsibility is to conduct observation. So you have to conduct at least one observation per month or per period. Observations can be done in person or they can be done in vivo or video recording. The next thing that you are responsible for is verbal and written feedback. So we have to be clear about what our role is. No matter if you're too comfortable or uncomfortable, it is your job to provide written and verbal feedback. So for example, if your supervisee is doing a procedure and they're doing it wrong, as awkward as that may feel, or sometimes we have issues with providing feedback because I don't want to make them feel bad, or I want to only provide positive reinforcement, or yeah, all of that is great. Positive reinforcement is necessary. It is essential. But if you are not providing honest feedback, then you are not providing true treatment integrity because they do not have the opportunity to learn and grow. And then you also want to provide written feedback. So they have a permanent product of where they started and what they need to do in order to get to the next level. So all of these are important. You have to get comfortable with speaking what's on your mind. Now, there are ways to do that, and we can talk about that in other videos, but you have to provide feedback. And I will share some documents on what specific areas that you should be providing feedback in. Another thing that you must do is you want to make sure that you are providing supervision for 5% of the time that they are accruing hours. So typically, if they are doing the maximum amount of hours, which is, I believe, is 130 per month, then you want to meet with that individual 4 times a month. So that is very important. If you do not meet that 5%, then their hours, all of those hours, they do not count. This is your responsibility. When teaching a new skill, when going through the task list, when answering questions, when demonstrating skills out in the field or out in your site, in your real site, you want to use the BST model when you are training. So we know the BST is the behavior skills training. You want to make sure that you are modeling the skills for your trainee first. You want to give them time to practice those skills. You want to give them adequate feedback. You guys want to do some role playing, okay? So this will ensure that it's actually understanding the concepts and principles and can demonstrate it in the natural environment. Okay, next, we're going to talk about a list of approved assignments. So I've gotten lots and lots of questions from RBTs or BCBA students about indirect work or unrestricted assignments. It's hard for supervisees to make their 60%. So there is a BACB requirement that 60% of your hours have to be unrestricted and no more than 40% of your hours can be restricted. So apparently a lot of people are out there unable to make their unrestricted hours. And I don't know, I feel like unrestricted, I can think of literally a million things that are unrestricted that I can teach a supervisee how to do that is an essential skill of a BCBA. Some of these skills can be behavior assessments, designing measuring tools, actually measuring data, writing treatment plans, program development, program change, making changes to treatment plans, staff training. Pretty much anything a behavior analyst does on a daily basis that is related to ABA. That is related to ABA. So yes, I am a behavior analyst, and on a daily basis, I get coffee. So no, I cannot have my supervisee go and get my coffee for me just because that is an essential skill for me. That will not be an essential skill for the BACB, no matter how reinforcing it is for the BCBA. So what I like to do is break it down into sections. So you can have a section of measurement, program development, ethics, staff and caregiver training, literature review, all of those things, all of those categories, you can use those broad categories and then think of assignments that will align with those categories. So next, when you are assigning tasks, you want to set your student up for success. So same approach that we would take with our clients, we also want to take that with our pre-certificates or our students. Whatever goals they have, make it as attainable as possible. So what I like to do is designated folders and labeling the folders for each assignment that you have for them, or you can create a schedule, you can create a calendar, you can add visual prompts, you can add gestural prompts, you can add bold due dates, you can put it in multicolors, whatever makes this completion more attainable. But then you also want to start fading these prompts, right? So when you first start working with this individual, you may have lots and lots of reminders, lots of prompts. But as they start learning these skills, as they start acquiring the skills of a BCBA, then you want to fade yourself out, fade your prompts out, fade those colors out, or some of those responsibilities that were on your list. Now you can hand those over to your supervisee. You can say, hey, now I want you to start scheduling our meetings. Now I want you to start creating our agendas. Now I want you to start finding your own research articles that are related to the population that we serve. Okay. So like I said in previous videos, it is our job to lose our job. We're not going to be the supervisor of this student forever, right? Also, you want to consider least to most restrictive. If you have a supervisee that is very independent, that has been in the field for many years, then you may not have to have as a restrictive schedule for them. You may just say, hey, I will see you during our supervision meeting, because in the past they have shown you that they can have everything prepared and that they know how to stay on task and that they know how to independently ask questions whenever they need help. Like I said, every supervision experience is different, which is why it's really important to learn the person that you're working with, to ask questions, right? Which brings me to my next step is special interest projects. So I like the special interest projects because it lets me know what they're into, right? It kind of reminds me of NET or natural environment training. I want to know what you're into. I know the type of behavior analyst you want to be, the type of clients that you want to serve. Where do you want to work? What are you interested in? And then we can try to tailor that experience around the things that you're interested in. We know that ABA can be applied to almost any setting. So this is our opportunity to think outside the box, to be creative, and to teach all of the essential skills that are in the task list, but to teach them in the environment that the supervisee plans to work in, or is more confident or comfortable in, or wants to develop their skills in. So it doesn't have to be. The next thing that is very important is actually the holy grail of supervision, and that is recording and documentation. So I'll talk about recording first. Recording is very important because you can use that recording for your one required observation per period. So if you are providing supervision remotely and you're in one city and they're in another, or a lot of us, we were doing telehealth with the pandemic. we are still required to conduct that one observation because we can do it via screen, right? We can record our session. So another thing that I like to do is I like to encourage my supervisees to record themselves studying, record themselves completing their SAF meds, record themselves going through the task list and giving non-technological language and technological language. I encourage them to record themselves conducting an assessment. Record yourself literally doing everything in this field and then play it back. So when you record yourself, you have the opportunity for more feedback. You could just record yourself, send that over to your supervisor, and he or she, they can give you feedback almost immediately. Documentation is so important, it's essential. Just like with our clients, if a behavior wasn't documented, it's like it did not happen. That is the same with your supervision hours. So let's say you have, let's say your supervisee has accumulated 130 hours that month, but you only documented that you met with them 2 times. Half of those hours won't even count because you failed to document. So documentation is very, very important. And there are trainings out there that I will link below, that I will recommend, that help you become more fluent on how to accurately document and track your hours, because I know tracking the hours can be a headache. And there is a new tracker out there that everyone is trying to learn and figure out, and we can talk about that. We can go through that in another video as well. But you have to get accustomed to tracking your hours. And documentation must be stored. Most of your documentation, if not all, should be stored for at least 7 years, just in case your documentation is requested by the BACB or you get audited. My last tip, well, it's not my last tip, but it's just my last tip that I have time for today, because I told you I'm getting ready for supervision. So my last tip to be the best supervisor is don't take yourself so seriously, right? So I know that supervision is a serious topic, okay? This is a serious matter. We know that, right? But why add to that pressure, right? The person who's going through this is already under enough pressure. So if you're coming in cocky, arrogant, like you know everything, you have all the answers, it doesn't provide a safe opportunity for that supervisee clarifying questions or to ask for clarity because they feel intimidated. My mentor, Dr. Serencioli Ulazi, always says that any relationship should be bi-directional, right? So I'm not coming in like I know it all. And I don't expect you to come in like you don't have all the answers and that you're just here to listen. No, I approach every situation, anybody that I come in contact with, as if I have something to learn from you. Everybody has something that they can teach me because I don't have it all. So when you stop taking yourself so seriously and you allow a safe space where your student can be transparent and you can be transparent, don't feel like that you can't bring your whole self to your supervision experience. I know a lot of times we try to compartmentalize, we try to keep it professional, but I am on a new journey of bringing my whole self to any environment that I come in. So in my supervision experience, you are going to know that I'm a mom. You are going to know that I love coffee and tea because we may talk about it for 30 seconds. I want to know about your weekend. I want to know about what you did for your kid's birthday party. I need to know the things that attribute to your learning history, because if I'm going to be your teacher, I need to understand and identify the way you learn. So I ask lots and lots of questions. I want to know, what was your experience like with your previous supervisor? What was your experience like in academia, period? I just want to know so much about you, and I try to consider myself an open book so that we can have some transparency in our relationship. Okay, so that is all the time we have today, but you need to come back for more information on supervision. Be a part 2 for the supervisees, okay? What should you do in preparation for supervision? Thank you so much for watching. Please do not forget to hit that subscribe button. This way you get notifications on when I upload new videos because we know they just keep getting better. Okay, guys, I will see you next time. Bye.